So this is what we do with our bike fits. We try to first assess our rider, okay, off the bike, because it can make a big difference if they have a hip restriction or spine restriction, how we fit them to the bike. So first thing, I'm gonna put you through a little functional screen. So why don't you actually come over here if you can see it better. Feet together. First thing is take your chin and touch your chin to your chest. Good, look up towards the ceiling now for me. Okay, this is a big one. We'll make sure they have enough cervical extension. If they're restricted there and they can't look up, that's gonna play a role into how we adjust the bars and whatnot as we get into that actual fitting. So look left shoulder now, as far as you can go. Good, right shoulder. Good, I want you to go ahead and bring your arms behind your back and try to touch your hands together. One up and one down. Good, other way around for me now. Good, so for those of you who know the functional movement screen, you know what we're kind of looking at with this. Just kind of quick screen to make sure she's moving symmetrically. Go ahead and bend down now and touch your toes, please. Good, looking for that good hip hinge. Arms coming up, arms overhead. Go backwards now as far as you can. Far back as you can arch. Good, and you'll see a lot of cyclists with this. Go do it again. They won't be able to break the plane of their toes or their hips because that gets so locked up. And so that's a sign that I'll probably teach those folks as part of their bike fit, some kind of self-quad release, some self-quad stretching and whatnot. Arms out like letter T now. Good, twist to the left as far as you can go. Good, twist right. Good, relax. Go ahead and bring left leg up in the air and hold that pose. Good, let me see a squat on your right leg. So go back up there, hold that again. Squat right. Okay, and then switch it around. So again, just your basic single leg squat, control. She's standing, pedaling, standing. That weakness in the hip could play a role in what's happening as she's putting power to the pedal. All right, feet shoulder width apart now, or a little bit wider than shoulder width. And let me see a nice deep squat. As deep as you can go. Good, back up. Again. Good, and then I do a little gait assessment. When I actually turn, just kind of walk that way for me, please. See how well she's moving through her hip. All right, then come on back over. Okay, and take a seat right there, please. There you go. So, again, just doing a quick little PT evals to kind of see if I'm picking out any imbalances side to side in regards to hip motion, ankle motion, knee, strength. Hold that for me, please. Good. Push out that way. And some of the key areas, bring that right up. Good, bring this one up. Bring that out. Okay, this one here, push. Good, relax. Okay, now go ahead and line your back, please. Scooch back. Okay. Good, a big one for cyclists is hip mobility. You'll see those riders when they bike, their hips kind of bow out to the side. And if I'm assessing that, I want to see how that hip is shaped. If she comes up and she comes out, naturally, that's going to play a role in if we fit her really aggressively, what's going to happen to that knee. So just get an idea of what I may expect to see on the bike just based on her range of motion. Face that way, line your side. Okay, you're going to bring this right up in the air. Hold that for me. Good, big push up. Good, nice and strong. Other side now. Relax that. Good, hold right there, please. Hold it. Good, relax right in your stomach, please. Again, that quad flexibility, we'll see if she's going to start to arch, and that's a big deal, especially if it's a triathlete, cycle and runner. If they're tight in front as they go to run, coming off the bike, that tension can kind of make their back arch or pelvis rotate, and that can end up with a whole host of injuries. So she definitely has some tightness through the quads. The biggest thing I see when I do my physical assessment with her, there's not any other limitations that's going to make me change how I fit her on the bike. So I'm going to bring you off the end of the table here. Handy tool here. This is something is specific for bike fitting. We can put our client in subtalar joint neutral. Okay, we can kind of figure out cleat-wise what she may need if we had to add some wedging, how much wedging she'll need for her cleats based on what her foot structure is doing. So right now, this is telling me potentially a 1 degree medial wedge on her left foot, and same thing on the right. So we'll keep that in mind, and we may or may not do that. We may get that through a little insert we put inside the shoe. We'll see. Cleat placement. Cleats, where the cleats sit on the bottom of the shoe is a really big deal, and it's something that a lot of people overlook. I want to find the ball of her toe, her first met head, and I'm going to make a little mark there. And I'm going to go over and find her fifth. Sometimes you have to have a patient wiggle their toes. It's fine. What I want to see is between those two lines, that cleat is dead center, this way. Okay. We'll adjust the fore aft and the rotation based on how she's riding, what she's doing when she rides. A lot of riders are going to throw these on haphazardly. And they're like, just put them on the bottom of the shoe. And a lot of riders that have numbness or tingling, a lot of times that can play a big role. So this one looks like a little bit too far forward, but we'll adjust that after we see your ride. So, all right, now we get you up. Let's get you on the bike, have you start cruising. I usually let somebody warm up for a little bit. Amy's already been on the bike for a bit, so we'll get right into it. So while we're on the topic of cleats, okay, one thing I look at, I take some lasers, okay, and I will take that laser right along the, between the first and second ray, and I'm gonna just look at what's happening in that laser line. So with Amy, I can see that, I wanna see that knee kind of staying on track. I see at the top of the pedal stroke, she's kind of bowing out a little bit, okay? She's staying in line pretty well as she comes down, so it's more at the top of the pedal stroke, so that may cue me into potentially the crank length's a little bit too long, or perhaps the seat's a little bit too low, and we'll get to that when we take some video on her from the side. The same thing here. She's staying in line well on the way down, but she's bowing out a little bit at the top. So I suspect her seat's probably a bit too low, and I'm going to take a video and we'll figure that out next. So keep cruising. So I usually do like 2, 3, 4 second video, and then we'll pull this up. So get her on video, and I like to use the high speed camera so we can go really slow and make sure we stop her right at the very bottom of the pedal stroke, which is right there. And then we're going to draw some angles, okay? And so draw this off the horizon. I usually like to see about 30 degrees off the horizon with the toe. You'll see some riders that really prefer to point their toe excessively. You're doing a good job of dropping that heel, what we like to call it. Come up to the hip with that one, and knee. And so this is our seat height. And so at the bottom of the pedal stroke, we want to see this number typically between 20 and 30 degrees. So subtract that number from 180, and you're about 37 degrees. So seat's a little bit too low, and that'll open up your hips. What I feel on my physical assessment is you come up, your hip is shaped such that as you come up, when you get up high, it wants to come out. And that's what I'm seeing when you're riding, because it's so low, it's forcing it to come out a little bit. So if I bring you up, it opens up your hips. If we get the seat really high and we still find you doing that, well, that may be an answer of getting a little bit shorter crank, which is the piece the pedal connects to right there, coming off the bottom bracket. But I think we're going to be fine with just bringing the seat up. We always kind of go to fitting the back of the bike first, trying to get the back of the bike set in regards to seat height and fore aft, get you comfortable there, and then come to the bars. But I am going to draw all these measurements on here so we have a reference when we get to the other picture. So shoulders, want to see about 90 degrees here. All right, I want to see a nice straight spine. You can see how it's a little bit kind of rounded and compact through here. I want you to be able to kind of lengthen that spine. Think about where you are when you're standing. We want to be nice, and we want to reproduce that position just on the bike. And that's important for core recruitment. It's important for for hamstring length. If you're rounded, the hamstrings shorten, you can't recruit them as well to kind of pull with. So if we can lengthen them like that, then we can use them to pull. But that probably doesn't feel very comfortable right now just because of the position you're in. So let's have you hop off, and let's start with the seat. Let's get that kind of nailed down first. And why don't you actually take your, yeah, we'll get that first, and we'll relook at the pleats. I always, and I should have done this, measure before, where everything is, 4 big measurements, okay? So I'm gonna just write these down, so we have these as a before after as well. 44.5. All right, yeah, so you're at a positive. And the key is don't over tighten carbon, okay? And so if you're not comfortable with how tight things need to be, you get a torque wrench, and it tells you exactly, most of these bolts say exactly how much torque needs to be at. So we're gonna level that, and it will allow you to rock a little bit easier. And then we'll get back to this after we get the height down. There you go. Okay. Like I said, they're all a little bit different with how they come out. So, all right, so I'm going to bring you up. You were about 10 degrees off. So I'm going to start with maybe like a centimeter or so. jumping right on. There you go. All right, now we're better. All right, now again, when we're riding, I want you to try to get there, that rock. Now, if that's not comfortable to get there because of a saddle issue, like there's so many saddle options out there, we could try a few different ones, but if you've never known to be there, then you wouldn't know to, but you want to really make sure we can rock the hips so the back is flat, that it's not rounded like this. You'll see a lot of cyclists that ride like that because they're just not comfortable on the seat, and so they push back, but you really want to kind of get forward. When you train, wear bike shorts, don't wear tri-shorts. Chamois butter can really help too. As you're getting to road or time trial geometry, you start to get a little bit more pressure on the soft tissues, and you can get some chafing and whatnot. And just the pressure contact points, the chamois butter, you've seen that stuff, can really help. It's like comes in a blue tube. You kind of put it on you, put it on your chamois pad and your shorts, and it can cut down on the friction and make it feel a lot more comfortable. So I want to look at you the fore aft. So I want to look at kind of listen to the knee over the pedal. So I want you to stop at 9 o'clock, which is right, or 3 o'clock, which is right there on this side. I'm going to drop a little plumb off the little bone in the bottom of your knee, tibial tuberosity. And when I do that, I should see that this comes in line with that. All right, so we're actually pretty close. We're pretty close. Now, if you were in a time trial bike, just to let you know the differences in the triangle. So if you were in, like, get down here in your elbows for me, right? So you know, right? So if you had a time trial bike, the triangles are differently shaped. So just putting aero bars on a road bike does not make it a time trial bike. Right. If you were in this position on a time trial bike, that marks line up with your fibular head. So we'd have to go forward with the seat about that much, and we'd run out of rails with your seat. So on a time trial bike, the seat's more forward, but the bars are more forward too, so you're way out in front, kind of pedaling backwards. That's the biggest mistake a lot of people make is they'll put aero bars on the road bike and not make any seat adjustments, and then they come in with some back pain and troubles and whatnot. So if you do that, you can, but you got to make some seat modifications as well. So that's something you want to do down the road. We can talk about how to do that. But all right, so back up. So this fore aft's pretty good. Let's re-video it. Okay, let's get back up on the bars. Again, it's going to all come together. The front of the bike's got to match the back of the bike too. So right now, I may feel like you get a little more, too much pressure on the hands, but right now the reach is a little bit short. So we'll show you what we mean. So we're going to come back in here. We'll pull you back up. Get you side by side with your last one. That's what we measured before. So we see just a little seat adjustment makes it look a lot different, right? Mm-hmm. Right? We brought your seat up probably, we'll measure it, but it's probably 2 centimeters, and a half a centimeter in the world of bike fitting is a big deal. So when we go 2 centimeters, that's a huge deal. But now if we look from the front, your knee's no longer bowing out because you've opened those hips up. And let's see, I wasn't seeing a rock at your back. You'll know that the seat's too high if you'll see riders, they start to rock their hips side to side. But some riders rock because the seat's too low, and as they come up, they're forced to kind of tip the hips to get that motion, or because they have inefficient pedaling and they focus too much on the pulling up with their hip flexor. We'll talk about that in a little bit, really regards to like the pedal stroke and how, or what the most efficient way is to kind of get that pedal to come around, because that's an important piece of it. All right, so right there. All right, so we're pointing our toe a little bit more now, so we may be a little bit high because we broke that. The knee angle looks good, but it looks like we're not pointing that heel quite as much. And I'm going to have you try to point the heel. And so it's amazing to see riders, like if somebody comes in and baseline, they like to point their foot to about 30 degrees off the horizon, and that's where they're comfortable. And all of a sudden, you bring the seat up, you start to see the toe point. Well, they're just making up for that motion through their ankle, right? So I want to keep that. Nope, it should be pretty flat, like you're scuffing gum off the bottom of your shoe. Think about that, like if there's a piece of gum on your cleat and you're trying to scuff it off. So the pedal stroke's really more like orbital than like a perfect circle. Think of like the bars on a railroad track. It's like this. It's like forward and down and then backing up with the hamstring. It's not a down up. It's a forward and down and then backing up. And that up comes from here, not as much from here. If you think about pulling up with your hip flexor, it's so short you'll end up rounding your back and kind of tipping. Okay? So I'm going to have you stand back up. I'm going to bring your seat back down just a little bit, split that difference, probably back down a quarter centimeter or so. So saddles can actually tilt one way or the other. If you tip it up, you're going to have a hard time rocking forward, right? So if anything, they're going to tip down a hair. Most manufacturers, if you level the rail, that's kind of how the design of the saddle is. So I'm going to level that rail because it was a little bit up. And you see what that does is it kind of puts this a little bit higher than here. And so if you level the rail, then you're going to get that slope, and that'll help you rock. So try that. If it's too pointed down, you're going to feel like you're slipping off, and you're going to keep pulling yourself back, and that's not a good thing either. But let's just see where that is now with the seat down a hair and with that saddle tilted a bit. Nice straight up and down knee, right? Knee's tracking right over the foot. And even though her foot measured at 1 degree cleat wedge, she's rock solid up and down. I'm not going to put anything in her shoe because I don't want her to bow out. She's doing a really good job of just pistoning up and down. And we're going to keep the cleats this way. So if she had like a knee that was knocking in, that means her stance was a little bit too wide. I could take her cleat and push her cleat out, and that would bring her foot in underneath her foot. Or if she was bowing out, I could move that cleat in and it would bring her foot out. So there's lots of ways to kind of work on stance width. We got lucky with her. We don't have to do much adjusting. Although I am going to take one of the cleats was a little bit too far forward. I'm going to slide that back, so I will do that next. But this looks pretty good. So how's that feel to tip it now with that adjustment? Better? It looks a lot better. It looks a lot more comfortable for you. So, all right, so I'm going to re-video that. Okay. I tell riders ride for a few weeks, and you feel like you're still having a difficult time getting that rock, then that's when you try a bunch of different saddles, because there's lots of different options out there. It's a great road saddle. I think having a cutout in the saddle is really important, so that you can kind of, all of those perineal nerves and whatnot can kind of stay open, and you're not dealing with those kind of issues. If you're going numb, if you're getting abrasions, that's not a good thing, and that's usually a saddle fit or a bike short fit. But it's not a bad saddle. It's just, does it fit your anatomy? And it's all about, you got to ride it for a few times and see once it's all set. How it looks like you grew, like your torso's long, right? That's where your core is strong. You're elongating through your torso, so now you can recruit your core properly. That, we all compact around it, that's a big reason why, and that's not terrible, but some people would really be exaggerating. You've seen those riders, right? They're not comfortable in the seat, so they push themselves back. What you're doing at the body level, inside the spine, is you're putting all the force on the front of the disc, and the disc fluid will tend to want to push to the back where the nerves are, and you can start to bulge the disc. You can get herniated disc. You get riders that get like calf cramping or hamstring cramping. A lot of times there's nerve irritation from that position. So it's really important when you're riding that you can elongate that. We're right at 28 degrees. Perfect. You got plenty of hamstring flexibility. So there's no reason why you can't. There's no reason why you can't keep it there. Someone with really tight hamstrings probably err closer to like the 30 mark. Or sometimes you have to go over that if they're really tight, 35 even. But again, these angles are a little bit different for mountain, for TT, and everything else. But for roads, right where we want you to be. So again, we've got a nice straight spine right now. All right. Now, what I see at the shoulders is that you're a little bit closed up here, and what I mean by that is when I take this angle, and here, the numbers are right around closer to the 80 mark, and I want to see 90. And if we're too far over, we're going to put pressure down, it's going to come right up, and we can jam the cervicoacromial space. We can kind of impinge that space. So you want to get like a 90-degree angle so that we can use the lat to kind of distribute the force down. So a nice long spine, and then just kind of distributing down. So you're a little bit too close, and we can change that a couple ways. One, and you're certainly mobile and athletic enough that we can drop this down. That's where we'll start. But we also, because you see as you go down and go forward by nature of the angle, we may need to take a little bit longer stem, and most of the time, that's the big change out. If you get any new equipment, it's the stem size. Rarely do the ones that come on the bike fit the rider, because we're all a little bit different with arm length and with torso length. So this is something that's usually changed on almost all bike fits is the stem size, and we'll send you away with the exact size stem you got to get. You can go to a bike shop or you can Amazon it. They're not expensive, and you just gotta get the size and the angle that matches it and put it on. So, so stay on here. What I want you to do is this. Let's actually, you know what? Why don't you hop off? Why don't you take the shoes off? I'm gonna adjust this down. I'm gonna start with a centimeter, and then we'll adjust the cleats at the same time. And then it's just a matter of up here. Is it better or is it worse? So I'm looking for. In regards for you, whether getting to triathlon and racing, where you're just not draft legal, the more aggressive we get you while keeping you comfortable, the faster you're going to go. Bringing you down a centimeter can make a huge difference in your profile, right? Your wind profile. And we'll talk about kind of aerodynamics exactly. We'll talk about what are some other ways to kind of get aerodynamic that can be comfortable. Okay. So let me see the cleats first. Let's adjust it. So I was going to add a cleat wedge. What I would do is that cleat wedge would go under this. If you were knocking your knee in and we need to get your foot up. So it's a little bit thicker, so it's like a 1 degree post. We put the 1 degree post on the inside under the cleats. The problem with bike shoes is there's not a lot of space anyway, so if you start putting stuff in this shoe, it can get pretty uncomfortable. So we tend to post outside. But you look like it's coming down really well. So I'm not gonna put that. And that's one of those things. Sometimes the physical assessment, what we see there is not always what happens in practical sense. So you make a note of it, but then you got to reference it when you see him ride. So I'm gonna slip this back just a hair so that we're centered between the Met heads. So, better or worse? You're not going to hurt my feelings. If it was better before, we can certainly bring it up, although I think I don't know that you're going to notice much of a difference. So you're on your seat, you're finding your good spine posture, okay? We're just riding. Now again, there's another little tip riding-wise. Never ride with wrists like this, because the carpal tunnel right there, you're putting a lot of pressure across it. Yeah, we're neutral here. So whether you're here or on the top bar, a lot of people come there for climbing. Yeah, they'll come there for climbing. Can come up, you can open the hips up a little bit, and it may make it easier to pull. But if you're up here, then get there for me. Let's see that real quick on the top. There you go. Yeah, you'd be straight. Yeah, here or even down here. Let's see down there in the drops. There you go. Yeah, another quick quick and easy reference position is put your hands back up here on the hoods. Now I want you to bend the elbows like this for me. Okay, so in this position with the back long, keep those elbows underneath you. I should see the elbow about shoulder, and the elbow looks like it's behind the shoulder, so it also cues me in that we're gonna need a little bit longer stem as we come out, or to drop her lower if that's comfortable. So what do you feel there comfort-wise in the neck? Like look up maybe 20 feet in front of you where you'd be looking at the road. Any strain in the neck there at all, or no? Okay. Another little tip is when you're riding, that if you're getting and riding down here to get out of the wind, where you're riding, aggressively down like that, if you're looking up, look up with your eyes in your eye sockets. If you're really steep and you're looking up and you're hanging out at end range, so get down there again for a second. Look up. There you go. Now, can you look up any higher? Yeah. So we don't ever want to be like at end range of the neck. You know what I mean? So if you were finding that you were there when you're riding, you want to come back to here and then look up with your eyes, right? So you're not at end range, but you're not going to be riding down there anyway. So we'll talk about that when we get to racing. All right, so come back up on the hoods, and let's just kind of see what that looks like, what that feels like. That all right there? Mm-hmm. Comfortable?
Yeah.
Find that back posture. There you go. Yeah, like that. That's still okay?
Yeah.
All right, so hop off, and let's bring it down. We're going to go down. So we'll go down a centimeter and see if that's better or worse. Again, as you go down, we go forward a little bit. And a lot of times as you go down, it does help to lengthen you and open you up and make you feel a little bit better. So these are each ½ centimeter. Mm-hmm. So you're going to take them both out. Put that down there. So on top. And tighten that one up first. Up. And you can find that neutral spine. There you go. Now we're looking better at the shoulders as you're going a little bit lower. How's that feel?
Good.
Let's ride there for a few minutes. Really good here, so you're doing a better job of dropping that heel. Are you thinking about that when you're riding, or is it just happening? Yeah, good.
I just was.
Yeah. Yeah, good. And that's what the difference was, because before when we measured you were like 37, right? Mm-hmm. But in the knee angle was close to like 150. So now we're right at 25 degrees of knee extension at the bottom of the pedal stroke, which is perfect. Nice straight back. This angle here, it's getting there. Still a little closed up. Still a little closed up. Get back on that for a second. What I don't want you to do is this. Okay? And you'll see a lot of riders that will do this, and they'll try to really do this to almost elevate their rib cage to breathe. So part of with endurance sports, breathing is really important, and so trying to really get the airflow to happen here. So you take a breath in, almost push against my hands. There you go. Try to get the air to move here versus like up in your neck, okay? So if you keep the shoulders just kind of relaxing down, there you go. It helps to open up the neck as well, helps to keep the shoulders open, and that's really important. That looks much more comfortable there. Okay, we're almost at 90 right there. And you want to be over the bike so you can really drive that power. It looks good. I mean, you look good, and I think for you, like, I think if you wanted to go with some clip-on bars, you could go there, and we would just have to make a little saddle adjustment. Okay, I think we have plenty of rail there. We can bring you forward. We'd have to bring your, typically if you're going down in the front, you got to bring your seat forward and up a little bit. So we can kind of pivot your whole body around that as you get steeper in the front. Once you find those angles, it's just a matter of adjusting the seat height and forward a little bit. So, you know, right now I'd say, you know, ride it like this. As you're getting more comfortable, you know, getting down in that aerodynamic position makes a huge difference. And so as you're getting steeper, be it on the bike when you're riding here or riding down here. But if you're going to be doing, you know, talking about Olympic distance tries, that's not bad, but for like a half Ironman, that may get pretty fatiguing. Versus if you could just have some bars where you're just relaxing down on. That's really easy to just hold that posture than having to hold yourself like that, and not necessarily like that, but like this on your arms, right? So that's going to get tiring over 56 miles. But that's when you're riding there. That should be pretty comfortable. You should be able to go for a pretty long time like that. All right. It's just that if you're racing, you want to get out of that wind so you don't get as much of that front profile. So another little drill you can do is unclip with one foot and put it back on the trainer behind you. Kind of rest it on the trainer. Good. And I want you to pedal with just the left foot. And so this is the skill of the sport. Think about pushing forward and down and then pulling back and up. And if you can really drop that heel, you'll be able to use that hamstring more effectively to pull back and up. Yeah, and it's all here. Pull back and up, pull back and up. There's a lot of hamstring work done on the bike that a lot of riders don't necessarily think about, but it's really important. Yeah, push forward and down. Good. You want to make it nice and smooth. You can feel there's a little bit of dead spot at the top. Not bad at all, especially for someone that's just gotten into the sport over the past couple of years. All right, other side. So once a week, you get a little trainer for your bike, and once a week, you dedicate a session indoors to where you work on these kind of drills, holding your back flat. Hang on, put that foot up like this. It'll grip right there. And then get that back flat. There you go. And then how do I make that pedal stroke nice and smooth? You can almost get a mirror beside you at home, Amy, and just look over your shoulder and make sure you keep that back elongated, because that's a different posture for you. And so if you think about that for a couple of rides, or maybe someone you ride with is big, hey, I want to make my spine look like this. If you see me starting to round my back like that, cue me. Your body's used to rounding, so that's like your go-to. So as you start to push harder, or you get tired, you may find yourself going back there unknowingly. And so it may take a couple of rides to make this feel more natural, but that's really important. And if you find that the limitation is the saddle's kind of jamming into you, you can take that seat and tip it a bit more. Usually it's around like 6-7 degrees where you start to feel like you're slipping forward. And then it may be that saddle may not be the best answer for you, but it's a great saddle. Just may, you know, if it's still an issue with your inability to hold that forward, then that may be the next search is like, okay, what saddles may work better for me? But you look like you're holding it really well. So let's clip back in with both feet. Let's ride again. Okay, and now with your shoulders down, I want to re-video that because I want to get a measurement of that shoulder angle again. I think your last one was more like 30, right? So it's the difference in the knee. I mean, it's a degree here, a degree there, and it's not a big deal, but that's the difference. So that's a skill. Think about dropping the heel. If you're pointing the heel, the knee's going to bend more. And typically, people that have pain in the knee or in the back, the seat's a little bit too low. It's a little too low, so it rounds the back, and it causes the knee to stay flexed too long. It can't extend. It puts a lot of pressure there. So if you do tend to feel those areas, and you won't because the seat has a range, but that could cue you in that my seat may be a little bit too low. So, all right, so let's go back to the shoulders here. It's not bad. I think you still need a little bit longer stem. So get back on this again for me, and let me see you come down. So kind of ride, come down, elbows bent like we just talked about. Yeah. So come up here now for me. There you go. I want you to come up. There you go, right there. Yeah. So right, move back a little bit, just because I want to get the right size measurement for you. There you go. Now come down for me. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's good. That's right there. That's perfect. Come back up. And that's not a wrong. That's not wrong. But I'd like you to be at that level, that angle, on the hoods, okay? Because there you could slip off, right? So that's gonna, usually it's about 2 centimeters, and we'll measure your bars. Every bar is a little bit different. Centimeter and a half. This is a 80, so I get 100 millimeter stem, and we'll give you the correct angle. It's an 80, yeah. Okay, so we'll write that out on your little sheet, and then that's all you got to get. That, and then you work on some drills. So otherwise, it's good, and that's very easy to switch out. If you wanted to bring it down, I'll do it for you, or a bike shop will do it for you if you get through a bike shop, or it's 1, 2, 3, 7 screws. But I'm more than happy to do it if you get one. Okay, you're not going to hurt yourself riding like that, but to make it perfect, I'd bring you out another 2 centimeters because because you're closed up, you're like at 80 degrees, and that puts some pressure on your shoulders. You'll be able to get more aerodynamic, and it'll actually feel easier outside to be forward. You'll want to feel like you want to reach forward. And a tendency for people, what they'll do is like, oh, I got to move my seat back. Problem is, you move your seat back, you just lost your ability to transfer power because now you're behind the bottom bracket. So it's really the right way to do it is not moving your seat back; it's moving your bars forward just a hair. Okay. Doesn't seem like a lot, but it's significant, yeah. So, so this is an 80, and we want to go to 100. Okay. Bar width fits you really well. So one way to do that, they come 38, 40, 40, 42, 44. You measure at 34. Okay. Shoulder width. These are probably 38s. They're female bars. 36s. Oh, even smaller, which is good. 36s. And typically, if people are riding like this, it's because their bars are too wide. So we want them a little bit wider than the shoulders, and where you're able to hold your wrist is good. So I think that's fine. I don't think we need to change that at all. If we wanted to make it a bit more narrow, we could by there's a little screw right here, rotating them in a hair. But if you're finding yourself doing this still, that may be the solution. But all right, and so then I want this stuff. So this is kind of like before after. And this is important for those patients that have been in the sport for a long time and are apprehensive about wanting to make changes. They could always go back. They have the measurements they had when they came in. So when we measure your seat, we go right from the center of the bottom bracket, and we come right up along the bar to the top surface of the seat. All right, so now we're at 64 centimeters. Okay, now the reach, which is the center of the bar, so I use the bracket of the stem. Okay, we're going to bring that right back to the tip of the saddle. And again, it's specific to this saddle. Some saddles have longer noses, some saddles don't even have noses. So it's specific to this saddle. That's 46.2 centimeters. And if we get the new stem, it's going to be 48, right? 48.2 centimeters if you change to 100 millimeter stem. All right, and that's again, if you do that, you cross off the 46.2, then you have the new measurement, right? And so we brought your seat up. What did I just say? It was, so 1.5 centimeters, right? Big deal. Saddle. Negative 4.7. Left cleat. We brought the flip the stem. Yeah, 1 centimeter. Good. Yeah, that's good. That's a lot. So recommendations. You need a 100 millimeter. Measure the angle. 8 degree. That's it. And then drills. Okay, so drills are flat back. Some folks, if they're comfortable with it, I'll make a couple marks on your seat and on your bike so that if your stuff ever slips, you know right where to put it. So I'm going to put a little silver Sharpie right there and there. So the brackets go between it. I'm going to put a little silver Sharpie right here. Okay, so you know where that seat needs to go, because stuff slips. Sometimes people put like electrical tape, but with this it'll get in the way. So that way, if you can't see the silver mark, unscrew it, bring it up. And if you feel off, look at that stuff, because carbon slips. It gets, it expands and contracts, it slips, and that does happen. So,
Okay.
all right. So I'm gonna get all the stuff together for you.